Hello and welcome to this episode of In the Principal's Office Season 2. My name is Nicholas Odhiambo and I am the school principal of Riruta Jubilee Academy from Nairobi, Kenya. On behalf of Global School Leaders, I'm delighted to be your host today. Wow, usually it's tricky being called to the principal's office, and I know it can be a bit scary, but I hope through this series we are able to change that. Today, I'm honored to have an international scholar, education leader, and the current Director General of Early Childhood Education, Basic and Secondary Education of the Ministry of Education of the Republic of Indonesia. Is visiting me in my office, and I'm excited to speak to him and get his thoughts on the kind of leadership required for our schools today. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Director General Iwan Syahril. Mr. Iwan, welcome to the show. We are delighted to have you join us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Nicholas. Very nice meeting you today and all of you here in this podcast. It's an honor for me to be in this podcast and in your office.
Yes. Yeah, it can be scary, but I'm sure it's nothing serious. Thank you. It's amazing to speak to you all the way from Nairobi, Kenya. But before we begin, could you please tell us a little bit about Jakarta?
Well, Jakarta I think it's quite hot. The temperature is around 29 to 32 degrees Celsius. And of course, every day's traffic jam in Jakarta is pretty bad. But I think apart from that, it's a very vibrant city, capital city. There's a merge of like many cultures in Indonesia. We have hundreds of different cultures and also quite international. So it's a very exciting city, a lot of things to offer, but it's just like a lot of people too at the same time. So yeah, it's exciting, but it's at the same time, like it's hot and also the traffic. We need to get used to the traffic. I'm from outside Jakarta, so for me it's still like a struggle to be settled in Jakarta.
It's amazing how we share common challenges. Traffic jam is something we are used to here in Kenya. Our temperature currently is not that hot. We are probably approaching our winter actually. Thank you so much. Jakarta and Indonesia sound very interesting. Well, here's my first question for you. Before we talk about leadership in general, I wanted to hear about your relationship with your school principal. Did you ever get called to the principal's office? What are some of your memories?
Well, all good things, I think. I was quite a good student, and also I won trophies from my school. So I had a very good reputation among my school principals. And if I get called to the principal's office, it's usually because maybe the school wanted me to represent the school for a competition, or also like appreciation from the school principal if me and my friends won something for the school. But I still remember every time we went to the principal's office, like scary, like even though that we gave a lot of good things to the school, like in terms of the achievement, but I don't know, the school principal has this kind of aura of authority in the school, and it's still, like even though that it's quite not, I cannot imagine like if I did something bad. Even like even scarier, I think.
Wow.
So that was my memory. So
Wow.
all nice memories.
Wow. It makes me jealous. You had some very good relationship with your principal. Actually, mine was worse when I was in school, but today
Yeah,
I am. Right. Anyway, that's great to hear. Of course, you've been working in education for decades. You currently oversee the management, recruitment, and professional development of over 3 million teachers in Indonesia. You've spoken a lot about teaching and learning practices and worked extensively with education policies. Given your experience, what role do you think school principals play in education change?
I think it is a very significant role. I cannot stress enough the importance of having good leadership in schools in our education transformation at the moment in Indonesia. In fact, from the very, like we have been doing maybe a lot of changes, more changes than in the past 3 decades compared to the past 3 years. Very rapid, comprehensive, and very also at the same time disruptive, because we're determined to make it relevant for the current and future challenges. But investing in human resources is very important in education, and we had to choose. We cannot cover all at the same time. So we decided deliberately to focus on school leadership. So we put together a new kind of training for a new generation of school leaders, in which the content of this training is not so much on the how to, but it's more like the mindset change, value change. The selection is super competitive. And we first, of course, we need to define what kind of competencies that we need for a leader, a school leader, for change. So we also need to align the competencies that we need for a change leadership. So it's different than a status quo leadership. And this is what we tried in Indonesia. And I'm very surprised, like we in the past 3 years, we have managed to transform this generation of school leaders that have a different kind of mindset. Like, let me give you some examples. The first one, if they face problems, they don't feel disempowered. They don't feel like they cannot do anything, but instead they have a problem-solving mindset. They will try to do something using the asset-based thinking, meaning that they try to look around them and see what they can do to solve a problem, instead of just like being disempowered and just wait for the government to ask, to help. They try to figure out by themselves. So this is very important, because our situations are never perfect. So having a different kind of growth mindset in our leadership is super important. The second one is they are collaborative. So of course, in change leadership, you have a lot of things that that you need to do, and to do this, you cannot do it alone. So, and this collaboration should based on the foundation of egalitarian. So it means it's very inclusive. All school teachers and also the community, the parents, need to be involved together to go for the change that we want to see. And the third one is the mindset of learning. I think a good school leader and a school leader for change needs to be a lifelong learner, him or herself. And this is again like something that we tried in our program to instill the love of learning and the habit of learning for our school leaders. And last but not least, and actually this is a super important part, is that a school leader should have this core value as an educator, which is to put students and their learning first and foremost. So students should be the main consideration in every major decision that a school leader makes. And I think only by this, then we have the ecosystem. School will be a learning organization because it is led by a school leader who is also a leader of change, a leader of learning. And then we see pockets of change in all schools in our ecosystem.
Wow. I must say, I hear what you say, and they actually remind me of my role as a principal today. I cannot overemphasize on collaboration. I mean, learning is a habit that as principals we need to develop. And more importantly, the core value of putting the student at the center. Probably here we say a school is as good as the principal.
Yeah.
So, fine. So thank you so much. So true. As a school principal myself for over 12 years, I know how much my role has changed. I think it has changed for everyone working in education. Even my relationship with local authorities and government bodies has greatly changed. But Mr. Iwan, I'm curious to hear, given where we are today, what do you think is the kind of partnership required for policymakers and practitioners to work together to make education system work for all children?
I think this is a very important question. I think the kind of partnership that should happen in our education ecosystem for change and to make education relevant is to have a clarity of purpose. Without a clarity of purpose that we are doing this for our children, for our future generations of the world, I think the partnership will not last. I think we will be trapped in maybe the politics of the maybe governing and etc. Maybe we will be trapped in the interest of certain like short-term interests, short-term goals. But when we think about our children, we realize that we need to collaborate to make it happen together. And for the leadership, both at the policymakers and practitioners, it is very important to over communicate this purpose, the why we're doing what we're doing. I think I often use this term, we often use student-centered learning. Student-centered learning can only happen when we have student-centered program. And student-centered programs will happen if we have student-centered policies. So even at the policy level, we should think about students. What is the impact of our decision? What is the impact for our resource allocation to students and their learning? I think this will lead to successful partnership. But the thing is, in education, Mr. Nicholas, the outcome of a good policies or good programs cannot be seen until maybe the next 10 or 20 years. Education is always like a long-term goal. You plant the seeds, but then you will get the fruit sometime later, not right away. So I think we need to believe in this purpose. Without that, again, we cannot make it happen. But you're right. This is partnership is very important. It's required among the policymakers and practitioners.
Wow. Thank you, Mr. Iwan. That's really making me think about the role I play every day in school. Making policies and thinking of the learner at the center. I think you rightly put it. And if all of us can have the learner at the center, then we are sure we can make very good policies. Fine. Okay, Mr. Iwan. My next question involves a little game. A quick round of rapid fire. I have a set of sentences that are incomplete, and I would like you to complete them with the first thing that comes to your mind. Are you ready?
Ready. This should be fun.
All right, great. Here we go. Joy in the classroom looks like dash.
Students' laughter.
Ah, okay. Children today need.
To be understood.
Perfect. Schools in the future need to.
To be reimagined.
Be reimagined. Great. School leadership is.
Super important.
Wow, it's interesting how you as a policymaker today responds greatly to the questions asked, and I think this is good. It's good having you here today, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nicholas.
That was fantastic. Thank you for playing along. And now for my final question, what would you focus on if you are a principal today? Any advice for all the school principals out there listening to this?
If I were a principal today, I would first need to focus on the students. With that, I mean, we know that all around the world, we've been hit by the pandemic, right? So the impact of the pandemic, we know learning loss is happening, but it's also unequal. Those who maybe in the more wealthy family, maybe they have the resources. Those who are maybe struggling, the impact is also greater. So what we need to do is to understand or map our students in terms of their readiness readiness to learn, in both cognitive and non-cognitive. And then I would see what can we do as a school with my team, a team of teachers, to help those students, which means that maybe we need to learn as a team. We need to collaborate with parents, talk to the parents, and see how we can problem solve to help our students together. We know that we need to differentiate our instruction so we can allow teach at the right level, maybe do some regrouping. We know that literacy and numeracy are the foundational skills that we need to pay attention to. So as a principal, I would try to reorganize resources and also some kind of groupings, maybe multi-age groupings for maybe like grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, maybe they are at the same level, they can study together. Maybe those who are a bit higher, they can also even their grade 2, but they have a higher achievement in terms of literacy, they can go. So we have this kind of mixed grouping based on ability, because I know that when students are disengaged, I think that is the most dangerous part in learning. So engagement sometimes happens, engagement happens when we can connect students at the right level, and have the support system for the well-being too is super important. We know the impact of the pandemic, the highlight about social emotional support for our students, and also at the same time for our teachers. I think the burden on teachers' shoulders at the moment is even greater than before. Not only we are entering the fourth industrial revolution, for this happening for a while now, but the pandemic has also complicated the problem. So I think understanding this map of data of our students and also support system for the students and teachers involving the parents would be my priorities, and also would be the way that I see how I make progress with my role as a principal. And sometimes we need to celebrate little progress here and there, and like making sure everyone is heard and can also voice their opinion, and also allow our students to give choice so they can also have ownership of their learning. And teachers, community of learners, we want to have a professional learning community in our school. So it's also very important to have that kind of habit of learning, because school should be a learning organization, not just administrative duties, but it should also model the kind of learning that we want in an organization.
Wow. You've just reminded me that we've just come from the pandemic, and I've not had many organizations talk of psychosocial support for the teacher. You can imagine all our efforts are channeled to the learner. Everyone is thinking about the learner from pandemic. But I'm sure the teachers were affected as well. And also, I think it's important that we lay programs that also help the teacher to just come back to themselves so that they can meaningfully engage the learners. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I think adults are also human beings, right? So we also experience maybe some tragic loss, or just like some kind of limitations during the pandemic that affect us mentally. I think the impact on mental health is even like greater than physical health during the pandemic. So we need to make sure that we can provide from our support, and sometimes the support is quite simple to do, but we sometimes think too complicated. Like for instance, just having a group reflection together, just like making sure that either like as a principal, you can have like maybe one-on-one conversation with all teachers, or have like a group sharing together about reflection of the week, things that they could suggest to improve the situation in the school, or how we can support the students. I think the key is this giving space for our teachers to be listened. If I were the principal, I make sure that I would have time for that.
Mr. Iwan, speaking with you was an absolute pleasure. We are lucky to have people like you who think so deeply about leadership and its importance in building a future for children around the world. I hope to see you in Indonesia sometime soon. We cannot thank you for this conversation enough.
I hope I can go to Nairobi too, Sir Nicholas.
I wish you can make it to Nairobi one of these days. That's great. To our viewers, thank you for joining us. As you listen to these conversations, let us know what you think in the leadership needed to build excellent schools. Kindly leave your thoughts in the comments below, and see you in our next episode of In the Principal's Office. Thank you and good day, everyone. Thank you, Iwan.
Hey, thank you.